Good evening and welcome to the July 5th, 2017 Abington Township Board of Commissioners Public Works Committee meeting. And may I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Stecker?
Here.
Barron? Klein? Myers?
Here.
Here. Thank you. Our first order of business this evening is to approve the minutes of the May 31st, 2017 Public Works Committee meeting. And may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a second. There we go. That works out nicely. Thank you both.
We got this down.
Are there any comments or corrections from my fellow committee members?
No.
Fellow commissioners? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Public Works Committee has 4 items of business this evening. The first is PW1, and this is a motion to purchase decorative street-side trash containers and automated trash containers for use by the Refuse Department from the Refuse Fund balance in the amount of $40,000, and I so move.
Second.
Ed, do you care to make a comment about this?
It's basically, we can get some decorative containers that we can actually pick up with the automated trucks instead of having a separate truck go out there and empty those black ones we currently have on the street. It makes it a lot easier on us. Keeps the area clean. Right now, to purchase those, the black ones we currently have, they cost as much as these other containers do. I had originally intended to take this money out of the, I guess the bond issue or whatever it was that we took for the trucks, and I made it enough that we could purchase a truck and have some money left over. But I forgot to make sure that the language was in the contract that we signed. So since it was on the contract, legally we couldn't use that money to purchase these. So it accomplishes the same thing. We're just not going to spend that money, so it's less money we're borrowing. And I have sufficient funds to be able to purchase these and some other trash containers to supplement some of the ones that are breaking now.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions or comments from members of the committee? Commissioner Myers.
Ed, how many do you plan to purchase?
How do I plan to purchase them?
How many?
How many?
I don't have the list with me right now, but I think there's, I think we're looking at 40 of the I think there's 40 of the decorative ones that we put on the corners, and probably about 200 of the 95-gallon trash cans and some of the blue recycling containers.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from members of the committee or fellow commissioners? Any comments from staff? Members of the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. PW2. This is a motion to adopt resolution number 17-021, authorizing the township manager to sign agreements and applications sent to PennDOT for traffic signal approvals, and I so move.
Second.
Any comments or questions from members of the committee? Fellow commissioners? Any comments from staff? Members of the audience?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So I'm not sure where this fits in, but is this normal that he signs it in advance? He is to sign these applications, but to sign this blanket in advance. And I'll tell you where my concern comes, and then maybe you can answer that concern. So recently we talked about the signals in Jenkintown being fixed by Abington, which I find to be appalling. I don't think that we should do that. We shouldn't be building a infrastructure to then farm out to other places, almost like starting a cottage industry and then selling that out. So my concern with this would be then, is he then able to sign any PennDOT requests for traffic signal updates without bringing it to the board instead and then having it done?
No, my understanding is no, and I'll turn it over to the manager in a second, but I believe PennDOT is requiring this action. And so, Mr. Manfredi.
Thank you, sir.
Aye.
I'll turn and look here. If you'll notice, this is a resolution. It's required. It has been a practice of the township to have the manager be authorized to execute these resolutions. So their motion is also approving the resolution. It's related to the traffic signals attached to this. That's it. It's not a blanket.
Okay, so anything that would normally have come before the board first
Will
still
continue.
will, so...
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and is it our intent, do we know to, thank you, and I appreciate that. Is it our intent, do we know, to do work for other townships? Is that going to be happening? Or
I don't know whether it's our intent to be doing anything beyond what is currently being done.
So the Jenkintown one was approved?
That was approved, yes.
Okay, so, okay, all right. If another one like that came up, it would come before the board
Yeah,
first?
it would come through this committee and to the
Okay.
board.
That's my concern, thank you.
Any other comments from members of the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. PW3, this is a motion to approve Pannoni Associates' proposal for reimbursement agreement Supplement E for Edge Hill Road, Tyson Avenue Flood Control Street Reconstruction Project in the amount of $144,905, which included services for MS4 grant design. 80% of funding will be reimbursed from the state in the amount of $115,924, and 20% from the MS4 program in the amount of $28,981, and I so move. Second. Any comments or questions from my colleagues to the left? Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. Mike, do I direct this to you?
Yes.
Because there are so many residents concerned with this project, would you just explain it to us in a little more detail so that everybody will understand?
Yeah, we're getting down to the final design and the final approvals of the plans. Our solicitor's office has worked really hard to get all the right-of-ways. They're getting close to completing all that work and getting that work done. This is just the additional work we had to do for the Shade Tree Commission, the additional work that PennDOT's requiring for traffic signals, and some other work for the right-of-way, to get the right-of-ways. This is the additional money that was required. Now, I tied it into the MS4 because they also, I got PennDOT to approve, do the MS4 program too under this contract, and it's a $14 million construction project, so they're going to be doing a lot of the work that the township would have had to do under our MS4 program. So that's why I kind of tied it into the MS4 program, that we could fund it through the MS4 requirements that we have. Fortunately, what I've done is when we have an MS4 project, I've tied it into my projects. The latest one was Ethel Jordan Park. That was estimated about $100,000. By tying it into my construction projects, I got it for $28,000. So the town should save significantly as far as their portion of that. So that's what this is all tied into, to keep this work built into the construction project so that we can keep the costs down for the MS4 program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members of the board? Comments from staff? Members of the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. And PW4, and this is a motion to reject all bids received for the 2016-2017 HUD program, which is the 1,000 block of Edge Hill Road and the 2,300 block of Parkview Avenue curb and sidewalk projects, and I so move.
Second.
Could we get a little background on the bidding process?
Yeah. Well, we went out to bid for this project. Of course, Edge Hill Road's a state road. Unfortunately for us, PennDOT put a lot of extra requirements on the project that we normally don't do. One of them was traffic control. I think the traffic control alone came in at $50,000, well over what we expected it to be for their requirements and the detours they were going to require. The other thing, of course, is their time of construction. They're only allowing the contractor to work from 9 to 3, even though it's over the summer. We had hoped that they would bend the rules for the summer, since there's less traffic, and let them work a little longer, but according their permit came back that they wouldn't allow it. So consequently, the bids came up twice as high, which is pretty normal for when you're working on a PennDOT road. So we're going to go back and relook at the project. We're going to take Parkview out, put that out on its own, and then we'll work with Van to refinance this, and hopefully by next spring, we'll be ready to go again. I explained it to a couple of residents, and they understood that. They understood the problem. So, you know, for the people I talked to today, we're okay with, you know, us postponing as long as we didn't say we weren't going to do the project. So we're going to work with Van and relook at the whole thing and see what we can do to make the thing come down in costs.
So do you think there's an opportunity to get both of these projects done, even by separating them out?
Yeah, by separating, yeah, I think we can get them done.
Okay. What do you think, if we take Parkview out, what would be the time frame in terms of being able to?
Parkview, we probably could turn around and do, we'll wait till fall, till a lot of the work has been completed, and their contractors are looking for work. We'll wait till then, and then we'll put the project out probably in September, October, to get that turned around. And then, like I said, Edge Hill, we'll have to relook at that and see how we're going to fund it, how we're going to work on that one.
Gotcha, thanks. Rich, is there any opportunity to talk to PennDOT? I mean, it seems these additional conditions and the inflexibility in terms of the timing and the work and whatnot, given the nature of the program, just wondering if there's an opportunity to talk with them about the ability to be a little bit more flexible here.
There is. We just have to reach out to them and do that.
Okay, good, thank you. Other comments from members of the committee? No. Commissioner Speaker.
Thank you, Commissioner Hecker, and thank you for asking a lot of the first questions I was going to ask. So the open-ended part of this, which is of particular concern to me, is the 1,000 block of Edge Hill, which is a lot of people know as the water tower block. I guess my concern, my question, I guess maybe, Rich, this might be for you, is maybe putting together a game plan to go, you know, to PennDOT, to our state rep, and get, you know, move aggressively so that it's not so much vaguely looking at it again in the spring, but we get a little more of a firm timeline, because, I mean, the folks here, and I know both Van and Mike have been, you know, excellent about keeping me informed and keeping the residents informed of what's going on, but I know that a lot of people, including myself, were really hoping for students to be walking to Copper Beach on these sidewalks on the first day of school. Looks like that's probably a little difficult at this point. But I guess sort of my question for anyone and everyone is, you know, sort of what can we do to get this on a tighter and more definite schedule than just the spring, maybe?
I think, as Commissioner Hecker mentioned, is to reach out to PennDOT. If you look at all of the issues that we have, and there are numerous issues involving PennDOT, I think it's time for us to get together with them to compile all of these issues and try to get a handle on how we can work better together, because there's a lot of fragmented pieces, but there doesn't seem to be any coalescing around how do we deal with all of them simultaneously, in my view. Again, it's a limited view in a short period of time, but there's a lot of things. I know Ed's working on a number of things with PennDOT and one engineer. We have other projects that we have with other engineers, traffic related. We have traffic studies, which I think we need to start looking at. For example, Horace is one that we talked about that you pointed out to me. So I think there's a number of issues that it's time for us to sit down with PennDOT.
Could not concur more. Thank you. And thank you again, Commissioner Hecker.
My pleasure. Other comments or questions from members of the board? Additional comments from staff? Any comments from members of the audience?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. I appreciate that that's an unsafe place for people to be, for kids to be walking, but I wonder if a pathway, you know, a macadam pathway, another place that's equally dangerous is a place that has sidewalks, and it's right next to the road, and that's from Rydell School to Susquehanna. That's equally dangerous, and I also wonder why those monies are not coming from a capital fund instead of from the HUD monies, because the HUD monies are intended, I know it says low to moderate income, and that this Edge Hill section fits that. They have whatever percentage of low to moderate income people. But when you're looking at prioritizing the monies you have, I sat in a meeting where we talked about people who have homes that they don't have enough money to renovate, and they're unsafe. They have heaters and things, roofs and mold and things that are very unsafe, and we don't have enough money for it. So we can't take capital money and do that, but we can take capital money and do sidewalks or macadam pads, which might be far less expensive, and then we might be able to use those HUD monies for people who are very much in need, and for, I think where they're really intended. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments from members of the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. That concludes our formal agenda. We will now entertain comments from members of the audience to matters of general public works. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Call to order the Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting for July 5th, 2017, and may I have a roll call, please? Here.
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 First, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 31st, 2017 Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Any comments or corrections? All those in favor? Aye. And the Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee has no business at this time, so we will entertain general comments on Code Enforcement and Land Development. Name and address for the record. 3 minutes, please.
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. The YMCA, was there a proposal yet for that? I understand there's a multi-story facility plan there?
No proposal yet.
No proposal yet. Okay. I trust that since expanded rights have been afforded all over via the new zoning, that waivers will not be given when that happens. The process at the Vacant Property Board is disturbing in terms of figuring out how code enforcement is supposed to work. When we got there, we found out that, and I've reported this many times, that we have code officers that aren't enforcing code, even when they hear that there are problems, that it's not being enforced. So that's number one. That's a major problem that I'm not sure how we get that fixed. Number two is, in that meeting, the people seem to think that the process is that if you have, so the process should be, if you have a law that's not working, you figure out how to get a law that does work, okay? So it's been a long time trying to figure out whether the law is not correct or there's some problem with enforcing it, okay? Clearly, it's not being enforced as it is, but should the law be tighter in order to not have blighted, vacant properties that are dragging down the values for others? So once we do see what laws need to be enforced, we have people sitting in that committee saying, well, we shouldn't really enforce that yet. We'll just send a letter and say, please do this again. And there is a specific process in the law that if you don't do this, then this happens. And the law should be followed equally for every Abington resident, not for some, and people shouldn't be remaking what the law is. So I'd like to see that we address that somehow. And my big concern for you as Commissioner Sanchez, as the chair of the Code Enforcement, is to find out, please, from Code Enforcement, what's not working for them to enforce so that properties are not blighted, and let's figure out together what laws there should be in there, and let's get them passed, okay? I'd be glad to work with you, but I think that's how the process is supposed to work, and it's not doing that here. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Hearing no others, Shall we move to adjourn? We're adjourned.
I haven't had dinner yet. Let's just remember that.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I want to call to order the Public Safety Committee meeting of July 5th, 2017. Can I have a roll call, please? Commissioner Schreiber? Here.
Here.
Here? Here.
Commissioner Bowman is excused this evening. And now to move forward to have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 31st, 2017 Public Safety Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any corrections or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
The motion has been made to approve the minutes, and now I would like to call on our Police Department Chief, Chief Livingood.
Thank you, Commissioner Schreiber. First of all, I just want to mention the very successful 4th of July parade and fireworks, which occurred yesterday. It was one that was very carefully planned out, and it's a credit to the association who puts that on every year. But it's also a credit to the cooperation within the township. Virtually every department in the township contributed this year, including like Public Works. They deployed some heavy vehicles out there for us as part of our safety plan. And the police department, EMS, fire department, certainly it's a credit to all of those organizations for working together. And the fireworks were, without question, the biggest we've ever had. And I thought they were pretty spectacular this year, too. I thought it was a very nice show. So credits to everyone for pulling that off. On a sad note, at 3:30 this afternoon, we had our 7th fatal drug overdose of the year. A 31-year-old female from the Glenside section was found unresponsive in her home. Narcan was employed along with other life-saving measures, but sadly the victim did not survive. In that same vein, on Friday you should have received a press release from the district attorney about an arrest that we made in the fatal overdose of a 58-year-old female from Roslyn that occurred earlier in June. In that case, it was an excellent investigative method that took place there, and as a result of the investigation that was done by Abington Police along with Montgomery County detectives, last week, Andre Franchette Gary, age 23 of Bear, Delaware, was arrested on criminal homicide charge of drug delivery resulting in death. That's only the 3rd time that this has been charged in Montgomery County, and significantly in this case, the drug involved was pure fentanyl, which, as you may be aware, is 50 times more potent than heroin. We also received a toxicology of another overdose death we had from May 19th, a 39-year-old female in Roslyn. And in that case, it was a mixture of heroin, oxycodone, and fentanyl. So what we are experiencing here is we're starting to see an increase in fentanyl. And in this one case, at least, it was pure fentanyl. And I think that's what you're going to see in the future because of the powerful allure of that drug. So we will continue to do everything we can. We have employed a new policy at the request of our district attorney, work hand in hand with him, as well as DEA and social services, to try to take care of both ends of this, the law enforcement, plus getting some services, some medication, some treatment for these individuals that are addicted to these powerful drugs. I also want to mention a robbery that we had on July 1st. You may have seen this in the news. We distributed a press release on this as well. The Aboda Mexican Grill, 261 Old York Road in the Pavilion. What was significant here was at closing time, a side door was left open. A male and a female came in. They were masked up, but the weapon that was employed was rather bizarre. It was what's called a Wolverine glove with knife blades that stick out of the end of it, like in the Freddy Krueger movie, and held that sounds kind of comical, but in fact it wasn't, because one of those victims had that device held up to their neck. And so we have released to the media They were here today and copied it, pictures or video actually from that robbery scene, in the hopes that somebody is going to recognize something about that, or at least the unusualness of that weapon that was employed, and maybe we'll be able to clear up that robbery. And that's my report.
Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? Thank you very much. And we have Rich Garrett here from the Second Alarmers, who previously submitted his report. Any other comments tonight? Thank you. We have 2 agenda items this evening. We have PS1 is a motion to advertise ordinance number 2140, amending Chapter 156, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking Regulations, Section 25, parking prohibited at all times, no parking between signs, no parking here to corner, parking prohibited except certain hours, no stopping or standing, and Section 28, special purpose parking zones for adoption at a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Is that supposed to have a date on it?
There was a date, but I took the date off because I wanted to talk with you before you passed that motion.
Okay. And I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do you have comments about that?
Yes. Yes. The date that was requested was the August voting meeting, and that will be the date. What I wanted to ask other commissioners, when this came to me for the agenda for review, it was noted that there's only 2 items. And if there are other commissioners who have similar types of requests, I know these are the basis of 2 commissioners, I'd like to throw out to you to get those to us so we can have them reviewed in advance and try to compile them all together. If none come in, then we'll proceed with getting it at the next available date with the advertising of the ordinance. If other commissioners have locations that they would like considered, this way we can consolidate, and frankly, it saves money in doing fewer ordinances and doing more and lumping them together. So it'd be frankly more cost-effective to, if there are other commissioners, and I know there are some who have approached me about stop signs at different locations, that if we can populate those, look at them, and then do them all together as one ordinance at a future date instead of just these 2. But again, we could put a deadline on it, so if people don't have them to us by, for example, next Friday, we would proceed with advertising this ordinance and moving on these 2 items.
So we can't pass this until we have a date, though, right? Is that correct? This would be like the
You could
discussion right now?
approve what was submitted in these 2 locations, and then the ordinance wouldn't be advertised. If other things came in and they were approved, I would bring them back to you either 2 weeks or in August. So it just might push it off. The bottom line is, give it approval, conditioned upon there be no other locations submitted that would meet, and then we could proceed with these. If other locations do come in, then we would postpone.
Okay. So does anything have to be added to this right now? You can just go ahead and...
Right now, you can proceed with it, because if we don't have any other commissioners giving us locations that would qualify, you could proceed with this.
Okay.
And the motion, if I may, the motion itself doesn't need to be supplemented with any language. All right?
Any questions or comments from committee members? Commissioner Gillespie. Yes, go ahead.
It seems like that could just be a continuous, would we ever get anything passed? Because there's constantly things coming up, you know? We just have it all the
Well, I think
time.
we're saying this is one for August, right?
Correct.
For the August meeting.
The only thing I'm asking is, there have been a number of commissioners.
I can see.
There have been a number of commissioners who have, well, not a number, there's 3, who have issues related to stop signs or traffic control. And I don't know that they've been vetted or that they've been said yes to or no to. And I guess all I'm saying is, before we spend the money on one ordinance and then go ahead and do another ordinance, that everyone kind of, let's populate them. If we can do them, great. And if not, we proceed with this.
Actually, can I ask you something? Can
Sure.
we see if that can be done by next Thursday's meeting?
Sure.
And then it'll be on August if we pass it next Thursday? And if not, we'll just pass these?
Correct.
So we can give it time to...
I said Friday, you're suggesting Thursday, that's fine. That's absolutely fine, just move it up one day.
Oh, yeah, well, that's because we have the board meeting next Thursday.
Correct.
Yeah. So as...
I guess what I was
anything that's
suggesting-
that would be added for the board meeting.
Okay. It just seems like, we always have, I mean, there are 15 of us. There's always something that comes up, so to try and keep it to one, whatever. I just think it's kind of, we'll see.
The bottom line is, continue with this as scheduled, but I'm asking any other commissioners, people come to me and they say, what about this intersection? What about that intersection? But it's never formally brought to you. So if everyone would get those to us.
Well, when you're saying people come to you,
Other commissioners, there have been 2 other commissioners.
I was going to say without residents? Okay, commissioners. They come to you for that? Oh, okay. Should go to Alfred and Chris Posey.
Yeah. So if they don't come up by next Thursday, then they'll be on some future one. Commissioner Sapone.
The way this is, excuse me, listed in the book here, name of the highway, this is in my ward, Garfield. The way I'm reading is, this sign is going to be, it's no parking near the corner. It's going to be put on Garfield, 30 feet north of Woodrow. Am I reading that right? Actually, the sign's going to be on Woodrow, not on Garfield.
This came to me from Alfred, so I assumed it to be accurate.
It is.
And he's on vacation, so I can't ask him there this evening. Chief, do you know?
I want to, it is not accurate, because we met about this before, a couple months ago. So maybe it's, the sign's going to go on Woodrow, 30 feet back from the corner of Garfield Avenue. So if he's back next week, I'll speak to him to see whether it's,
Okay.
So the sign is supposed to be on Woodrow, not on Garfield. Okay.
30 feet back from Garfield. Yeah, that's, okay.
That sounds like it shall be fixed.
He'll be back before that meeting also, next week?
Yes.
He's back next week, I think.
Has everybody else reviewed theirs while we're at it? That was correct. That's a removal. Any other questions or comments? Staff? No, we haven't finished comments. Staff or audience?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. Very recently, I asked if you would possibly amend this so that when you read this in this forum where many people see it on TV, they would know what intersections you're talking about, what signage you're planning to put, what it's going to create, and this would be one place that many people would learn about it, and especially because it's broadcast. So I saw some heads shaking. I know that could be done. Did we decide just not to do it?
Well, it had been, if you'll remember, it had been done in that way in the past, and this was the way that I believe it's done in other townships, and we had decided to do it that way.
Okay,
I mean,
so
I'm open to entertaining if other people want to go back to the old way. It used to be different ordinances, I think, for every single one.
But your constituents are telling you that when you read no stop sign here to corner, but don't say where it is, it makes absolutely no sense. You're not reaching anybody to tell the people who would care about this. And we're asking you to include the people who care. When you read this, it doesn't say what streets and where they are. And actually, you just mentioned tonight 2 commissioners, and I thought Farron, Zapone, and DePlacido were all listed in the documents. So that would have
Yes,
been
they are all.
3 commissioners'
Yeah.
wards. So even sitting here in the meeting room, if people came to the meeting, they wouldn't know. And so what we're telling you is you're doing something in a way that your constituents don't understand. We're asking you to do it you can read all this if you want to read it.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
So can that be done?
We can certainly talk about it, but yes, do you?
Ms. Lehman, I apologize. I can't look at you and
I understand.
So I'm
I
gonna have to-
understand. I appreciate the effort.
help me understand what you're saying. You're saying that the public doesn't see the highway name, the location of the sign?
Yeah, they don't see that there's going to be a stop sign on Woodland Road or something that says no parking on Elmwood Road or whatever. They're not seeing that, and they're just hearing you say a whole bunch of stuff that means nothing.
I guess
If you read all that, it means nothing to anybody.
And perhaps the solicitor can correct me if I'm incorrect, but the purpose of this exercise this evening is the draft ordinance which identifies what is taking place by ordinance. It's in the draft ordinance on the agenda this evening. It will be on the agenda again this is in the committee, it'll be on the agenda again in 8 days. When that is done, it gets advertised, and there's a public hearing on that ordinance. Correct?
Yeah.
So there's 3 bites at that apple, and you'll see what street it's on, what location it is.
No, but we don't see that. See, this is most of the people in the township, and this is my concern, and pardon my interruption, but most of the people in the township only hear what they hear at this meeting. There are very few people looking into the documents, which I understand are online, and if you drill down, you can see them. Most people don't even know there are documents to drill down below the agenda. So that's what I have spent 11 years trying to get the information back to the people that want to be participatory in their government. So it seems like a very small thing to ask that you say on this road, it's listed right there, I can see it from here, you have 3 or 4 of them listed right there.
Right.
Why would you not add that in?
So,
That's what I'm asking.
I understand. So basically, what Ms. Lehman is asking for is for it to say the 1500 block of Patain in the actual motion. And it'll make it really long and cumbersome to put it on it when they're really long, but, if that's...
It doesn't
I don't
have
know
to
why
be
it's-
in the motion, but somewhere in your conversation before you pass it, it should be, people need to be made
Well, then it
aware.
would have to be in the motion, because
Yeah.
sometimes there's usually no conversation around these.
Right.
They're just passed. So it would have to be in the actual motion to say, amending Chapter 156, between signs on Pershing Avenue or whatever. That's not one of them. It's not.
That is certainly something you can do.
So,
I would leave it to the solicitor since it's his.
I do have a comment. I definitely understand what the speaker is asking for. And I think I can't speak for every commissioner, but it would not surprise me if many or most commissioners did this as well. When these things come up in the ward I represent, and I'm sure I see Commissioner Kalinowski nodding his head, I think we all get the word out to the residents, or to the folks in our ward anyway, who are the ones who are going to not be able to park there on their street or around the corner because that's where they live. And we kind of work out if there are any issues. We sort of work that out independently so that it's sort of it sounds like this was originally removed probably for the purposes of streamlining, because again, it would make the motion very, very long. I've never had anybody bring this up with me, only because, again, like I think a lot of us, I just tell people about it ahead of time and see if there are any issues.
Well, I've called people and I said, did you know they're making it one way in front of your house? No, they didn't. And in some cases, they may even have received a notice, but they didn't understand what it said, and I've seen some of the notices that were sent, and they are often in
But the truth is,
Greek.
if they've seen the notices and they've been approached, and then they're probably not going to hear me reading it either. They're probably not going to be watching this meeting. You're a citizen who does participate and does listen to these meetings, but if somebody's not going to be reading a notice that comes to their home, I don't think they're going to be watching
Well,
it on TV.
that's not true, because a lot of people have a lot of different
Most of the
reasons
things-
why they haven't done these things. Sometimes they didn't understand it, sometimes it got lost in a pile, sometimes they didn't think it referred to them, and sometimes it was too much legalese. There's a whole lot of reasons. I'm just asking for a very simple thing, that when you pass something in here, people understand what it is that you're
I
passing.
understand what you're asking.
And then they'll hear it on TV, and if they're interested, they'll come. Okay? So that's what I'm asking. I'm hoping that you will do
I
that.
understand what you're asking.
Thank you.
Do we have another comment in the audience? Oh, I thought you were trying to comment.
Just waving.
He was just waving.
Just
Okay.
waving.
Yes.
I'm good.
Yeah. Come on up. Name and address, please.
Raymond Bell, 2076 Parkview Avenue. Good evening, everyone. I'm confused. I know that, for example, if you have 4 commissioners at different times get these, requests, does that mean that the constituents that are making the request going to have to wait until we get them all consolidated? I'm a little confused with the township manager's answer, so excuse me for my ignorance. You can look at me, that's okay.
There are 3 commissioners on the list that have been reviewed, and Mr. Freund has in fact reviewed them. There were 2 other requests that I had that have not been reviewed, to my knowledge, by 2 other commissioners that they've asked of me. Since he's on vacation this week, and since he and I were not able to speak, what I'm asking them is to continue to proceed in this manner, but I may be asking them, depending upon what he tells me, to put this off for 2 weeks so we can add those this time. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, that helps me. The other thing is, when you make the publications for people to know, it may be applicable to people that live in that area, but if people are visiting that area, they're not going to be cognizant of those signs. I can guarantee you that, because I have one in front of my house that people aren't paying attention to. So I think it's informative not only for the constituents, but those that are going to be visiting those areas as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? No. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And I guess we can revisit the Ms. Lehman's comments on adding of the addresses. And PS2 is a motion to appoint candidate Kenneth Witter from the Certified Civil Service Eligibility List to the position of probationary police officer, provided he successfully completes the background, physical, and psychological tests and all entry requirements of the Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission for Act 120 training. Appointment will be effective September 5th, 2017, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from commissioners, staff, audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And that concludes our formal agenda. Are there any comments about public safety? Commissioner Myers.
Just a question. Will we be revisiting the tax credits for the volunteer emergency responders?
Yes. The fire marshal and fire department personnel are pulling together the numbers so that we have some numbers to look at. It's anticipated to be back in August.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for asking that. Any other comments from commissioners on public safety, staff, audience?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane, so thank you for considering that. I appreciate it. I wanted just to ask Chief Livengood if you would consider letting him respond on this. We had talked about the DNA testing taking a year, and I came to understand that it takes a year if it's sent out somewhere where there is very little cost, but locally we can get something done at a greater cost. What we had been discussing is seeming to take far longer than the couple of weeks it was supposed to take. Maybe he could answer, what happened there. I thought we paid the extra cost so that it could come quicker, and so what happened there? Thank you.
Are you okay answering that? I'm not sure what you're
Yes, Ms. Lehman, I can answer that for you. There is a national database of DNA results. And that is and that's for unidentified DNA. So if there's a crime committed and we don't know who the suspect is, that's the database that we need to check it against. Also, every person who's arrested and convicted of a crime, they have their DNA tested and submitted to that database. And therefore, the goal is that people who are arrested are matched up, and that's what often happens. We had no idea who committed a crime, and because of that national-wide database, they are linked up together. Now, the only lab that we're allowed to submit that through is the Pennsylvania State Police Lab. We have no choice in that. That's the lab it has to go through, and unfortunately, as you are aware, till the results come back, it's at least 1 year from the time that it's submitted. And that's just because there's such a huge backlog of DNA being submitted to this database. But it's the only way that it can occur. The other database that's available to us, and it's not really a database, and it's National Medical Services right up here in Willow Grove. They are fully capable of testing DNA on different subjects, from body fluids, blood, even on touch DNA that's left at a crime scene. However, they are not permitted to test it against or submit it to the CODIS database, which is the nationwide database. Only PSP is allowed to do that. So, if we have, and one other piece I should mention there is that when we submit something through the PSP lab to the CODIS database, that is part of PSP's mission and charge. We do not have to pay for that. That's provided for us. So there's no cost to the taxpayers directly in Abington Township from that. However, if we have a crime that has occurred and we have a known suspect who we think it's going to match up against that, we can get a DNA sample from that individual, either with a search warrant or by him willingly giving us that sample, and we get authorization from our district attorney's office, then we can submit that with the sample of the item that we suspect has DNA on it from the crime scene, like something that was touched, to NMS up here. So they're not at that point testing against the whole body of DNA that's out there, only these two things. That process takes less than 3 months. However, it also costs several $1,000s, which is paid for by our district attorney's office. And they give authorization for us to make those submissions very judiciously because of that. They're spending a lot of money up there. And a case that you're familiar with, I think, in your neighborhood, we got permission to do that. And that's the reason there was a quicker turnaround in that particular case than there would be if it was submitted to the nationwide database. So it's a little bit confusing, and hopefully that clears it up somewhat.
I think we were given to know it would be a few weeks originally, so that's not the case. You just said 3 months.
You know, I may be off on that time frame. I know that the state police is over a year at least, but you may be correct.
But I'm talking about the local one.
Yes, and it may be less than 3 months.
Okay, all right, then I'll want to see you afterwards, because there's something that 3 months is a long time to wait for.
Okay.
Thank you. Having no other business this evening, we are adjourned.
It's my pleasure to call to order the July 5th, 2017 meeting of the Abington Township Public Affairs Committee. Let us start, please, with the roll call. Here.
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 Here. Commissioner Bowman is excused. Parks and Rec Director Oles is not here tonight, but we do actually have an announcement we're going to start with from Commissioner Schreiber.
Thank you very much. So we have been having the Summer Youth Meal Program for 2 weeks now. Well, no, a week and a half. I don't know. How long has it been? 2 weeks, something like that. It is growing. It's started off a little bit slowly because children were still in school, but it has been growing. And we are going to have it that through, the original dates. I want to thank Van Struthers, Director Struthers, for his hard work, and the commissioners who have stopped by, Commissioner Kalinowski, Commissioner Myers. We are up and running. I just want to remind everybody, it's Mondays through Fridays. It's going to be continuing until August 18th. It's from 11:30 to 12:30. There are people there. You don't have to do advanced registration, although it helps us with the numbers, but that is optional. It's by the Crestmont Pool area, and please help spread the word. I did bring flyers for the commissioners today, if there's any place that you can put them, but I just also wanted to get that information again on TV so that if anybody's watching, knows any youth who might be interested, it's open to kids between 1 and 18 years old. Any child will get a meal if they show up, and so we hope to see you there. And I'll pass these out.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Shriver. All right, let us start with approval of the minutes. This is a motion to approve the minutes of the May 31st, 2017 Public Affairs Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any corrections, additions, supplements? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. The minutes are approved. We have two agenda items tonight, and the first is PA1. This is resolution number 17-020, the one-year action plan and community development block grant budget, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. This is pretty straightforward, and we've done this before. Director Strother, you don't have any extra comments? All right. Any comments or questions from members of the committee?
No.
Commissioners in general? Township staff or audience?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So I touched on this before, and I'd just like to mention one more time that I do believe that HUD monies are really intended and needed by the needy, by the truly needy. I think you know at one point we stopped a project that was going to take place with HUD funds in a neighborhood where all the houses were $400,000 and up. Okay, so we definitely need to review those decisions. I don't have them all in front of me tonight. I am unfortunately way overcharged with some other things, all township related, but it has not been the case that, I guess what I want to say is, what has happened is, what should be the normal business of the township, fixing streets or whatever, can fit into the HUD money thing. If the HUD monies are being used not to genuinely help the poor, that explains why we have, I think it was 28 families were reported that we have homeless families here in this wealthy community. I mean, we really do have the ability to gather together and not have homeless families. We should be able to fix those problems. And as I said, we have people living in houses that they can't afford to fix, where when that house ultimately changes hands, that can be paid back, but it should be taken care of now. We need to really care about the people in our community and not use any HUD funds ever for projects that are public works projects. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion is approved. And our second and final item is PA2. This is the Abington Free Library Condenser Replacement Project. And I so move. Actually, I'll make the full motions. Motion to accept the bid from Hirschberg Mechanical LLC in the amount of $102,545. $84,000 expense to come from account number 07-23-071-7494. The additional expense to come from permanent improvement fund balance, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from members of the committee?
No.
Commissioners in general? Township staff or audience? All right. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. PA2 is approved. Much needed, let me tell you. The library is going to be a significant improvement because that condenser is very, very old. All right, that ends our formal agenda. Any comments on the general purview of public affairs?
Laura Lehman, 1431 Bryant Lane. So I recently missed a court date. I had asked just days before for, or even one day before, it may have been, no, a couple of days before, for someone from the solicitor's office to let me know when the court dates were. That's a major problem. We have the township going to court on our behalf with a great deal of taxpayer funds, a great deal of taxpayer funds. There needs to be a way for taxpayers to be able to be on a list and be informed as to what's happening with these things. So, number one, I am asking if we can get a list together when taxpayers are interested in knowing when a court date is, and that they can be notified to be able to attend. So that's number one. Number two, I think in regard to the many investigations that have been going on in this township, and not without good reason, I think that there is a concern on my part at least, that we have a whole lot of lawyers being hired, and I would like to know whether personal lawyers, our fire marshal, for instance, I think had both a personal lawyer. I don't know if he's also being represented by the township, but at one point he said he couldn't do anything for an issue in the township because his attorney told him not to. So I don't know if that was the township attorney, his personal attorney. But number one, I'd like to know, am I paying for these personal attorneys? And number two, I would like to know, you know, where we find out about our bill that we have for these things. When that happened with the fire marshal, we were paying for a fire marshal who wasn't able to do the fire marshal's job because of issues. I mean, I would think then he should maybe step down temporarily and somebody else perhaps take over. Perhaps that happened. But I'd like to know how I know about that when apparently the commissioners didn't know because he was asked at a meeting for information. And then it seems that he didn't show up at many meetings. I don't know if that was because he wasn't able to because of the legal complications or what. So as a taxpayer who's funding all of this, I want to understand how to find out about it. So one, I want to be on the list. Two, I want to understand how to find out how my tax money is being used in the context of all of this. Okay? And then number three, I would also like to know if, I don't know if I want to do that one.
Just so you know, your 3 minutes have expired. If you get to number three very quickly.
Okay. So, you know, I also would like to understand, well, I'm going to leave it with those two for right now, and I'm going to bring the other one up later. But let's at least start with those two. Well, I'll say the third one quickly because I would like to have an answer. Very quickly, and I mentioned it before, that I believe that what is necessary to protect this township against those who are suing us is not being adequately put into the agenda, and I'd like to know where and how to address that. That's a public affairs issue, and I'd like you to help me find that. Okay? So those are the three things I would like, hopefully, to get answers to. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right. With that, we are adjourned.